Alright, and good afternoon everyone, this is Patrick, and welcome back to Underdog Dueling, where we take a look at hidden gems and archetypes that people might be sleeping on, and compare their relevance to today's meta. So today I have with you another deck profile, and this one is kind of a fun one. This is a little bit of an anti-meta strategy that is what I would like to call Floowandereezes before Floowandereezes was a thing, and this is pure Simorgh with a Monarch engine. Now, the theory behind this deck is that it uses no extra deck, and it uses a few Monarch spells and traps in tandem with Ryza the Mega Monarch to potentially lock down your opponent's extra deck. But, however, it's not, I don't feel it's as egregious as Floowandereezes. Yes, this deck will normal summon and tribute summon quite a bit, but it's not like the effect of the Floowandereezes cards like Magnificent Map, where the moment your opponent normal summons, you normal summon, which gets you like 5 other normal summons before your opponent has a chance to do anything. So I figured, let's try and take a look at like the ancestral version of this. Let's go, because you got a lot of these large birds of prey, as opposed to these adorable little birds going on an adventure. And then, of course, after this video, we will do some test hands. So if you enjoy this and want to see more, please remember to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at Soren's Lair. Okay, and here we go. Starting off with some of the smaller monsters in level order, we're going to start with 3 copies of Simorgh Bird of Beginning. So when this card is normal summoned, you can, during your main phase, normal summon 1 Simorgh monster in addition to your normal summon or set, and you can only gain this effect once per turn. And if this card is in the graveyard and your opponent controls no spell or traps in their spell and trap zone, you can special summon it in defense mode, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, you can't special summon any monsters for the rest of the turn except for winged beasts. So this is actually a really good starter card for just kind of getting your plays online for that additional normal summon, because this does include tribute summoning as well. Now, the second effect to bring itself from the grave is something that all Simorgh, except for one, a lot of the lower level monsters all share the same effect of being able to bring themselves back, provided your opponent controls no back row, which usually isn't too much of an issue given this is very much a monster heavy format. We then play 3 copies of Bird of Bringing. Now I'm getting them mixed up. So, basically, when this card is normal summoned, you can add a Simorgh from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. And it has the same effect. This is typically what you use to grab any of your Simorgh cards. This can very much include your spells and traps, or really just whatever card you need. Like, for example, if you want one of your bigger birds, or you just need some tribute fodder, you can grab that as well. Next, 3 copies of the level 3 Bird of Calamity. When this card is normal summoned, you can send 1 Simorgh card from your deck to your grave, except another copy of itself, and it can special summon itself like all the others. This one's actually kind of a fun one. It gets a little bit stronger, as you can see, with 1500 attack, which is pretty respectable. So with this, when you send a card to the graveyard, you can either send one of your prior monsters to be able to get their special summon effect, or you can go ahead and dump something like Simorgh of Darkness to be able to get its summoning effect. We then play the new Simorgh Bird of Perfection. So this debuted in Battle of Chaos, in which, while this card is up on the field, this card is also Wind Attribute. And then, once per turn, and only once per turn, during the main phase, if you normal or special summon a Winged Beast monster, you can reveal this card in your hand and immediately normal summon a Simorgh monster, usually itself. And if this card is normal summoned, you can send a Simorgh monster from your deck to your grave and add any Simorgh spell or trap. This is just a way to help get your plays online, and this is the card that often gets used in Simorgh Floowandereezes hybrids. And plus 1800 attack helps for swinging over stuff. Then for our big boys, we go and play 2 Simorgh Lord of the Storm. Lord of the Storm makes it to where your opponent cannot target it with spell or traps or effects, and then once per turn, when a spell or trap is activated, you contribute 1 Winged Beast monster, then target 1 card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. So a good form of spot removal. The only downside is it is targeting, but there are many monsters nowadays that don't actually have the targeting protection, so you should be pretty good on that front. And then when a Winged Beast monster you control is destroyed by battle while this card is in your graveyard, you can add it back to hand. We then play 2 copies of Simorgh of Darkness, our other really big boss monster. While this card is face up on the field, it is also wind attribute, similar to Bird of Perfection, leading me to believe that this is kind of the, more or less the evolved form of Bird of Perfection. And Monarch-Simorgh, but I don't actually have Monarch-Simorgh as of yet, though I might consider running it. Let me know what you guys think. So if you tribute summon a dark or a wind monster, you can special summon this card from the graveyard if it was there when the monster was tribute summoned, or from the hand even if not. And when a spell or trap is activated, as a quick effect, you can tribute one wind wing beast monster to negate and destroy. So this is actually really good. If you summon out any of your big birds and you tribute summon, you can immediately get this guy from the hand or grave, which is why you want to either see, if you don't have it in your opening hand, you want it to put in your graveyard as soon as possible. Then for the last Simorgh, we run one Bird of Ancestry, based where both players can tribute summon wind monsters with one less tribute than required, and if you tribute summon this card by tributing only wind monsters, you can return up to 2 cards your opponent controls to their owner's hand, and it is treated as a normal monster while in the hand. And you notice how all these birds have the same general stat line of 2900. Which is always really nice. So this card is really good because you don't target. This is non-targeted bouncing, which is always good because it bypasses a lot of restrictions. I only run the one because it doesn't tend to come up very often, but when it does, it's always a lot of fun. Now for the man of the hour, Ryza the Mega Monarch. So everyone is familiar with Ryza. Basically, you can tribute summon this card by tributing one tribute summon monster, and if this card is tribute summoned, you can target one card on the field and one card in either graveyard, and if this card was tributed with summoned using a wind monster, you can target an additional card on the field. Basically, the first 2 targets are placed on top of the deck in any order, and then after that, return the additional target, if any, to the hand. So excellent form of spot removal, especially in Floowandereeze when they summon this on your opponent's turn, and potentially what we can do with the right circumstances. Then for our last monster, we do run 2 Mist Valley Apex Avian. I thought about dropping it down to 1, but I'm not quite sure. I haven't tested the deck fully to see how it is a pretty consistent deck, though the 2 Avian might be a bit much, but I'm not sure. And again, as always, let me know what you think. So now with this one, Mist Valley Apex Avian, once per chain, when a card or effect is activated, you can target a Mist Valley card you control and return that target to the hand to negate and destroy. So basically what you would do is you'd tribute summon this out, negate any card or effect, and then just return this card to the hand so you can go ahead and summon it again. And that is all for the monsters. For our spells, we run 3 copies of the Elbor's Sacred Lands of Simorgh field spell. So all Wind Wing Beast monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. Then once per turn, you can reveal 1 level 5 or higher Wind Wing Beast monster in your hand, and then this turn you can normal summon Wing Beast monsters for 1 less tribute, even if this card leaves the field. Typically what you will do is use this effect to, well, make your monsters easier to summon. And then if you control a Wind Wing Beast monster, you can immediately normal summon a Wing Beast, which allows for easy tribute summoning on your turn specifically. Then play 3 copies of Simorgh Onslaught. So with this one, what you do is you discard 1 Wing Beast monster and add 2 Simorghs with different attributes from your deck to your hand, and then you can mash the card to reveal 1 Wing Beast and reduce the levels of monsters in your hand with that name by 1 for the rest of the turn, even after they are summoned. So a lot of times what you do with Simorgh Onslaught, you can go ahead and grab Bird of Perfection and then really any other one, because let's see, if it's on the field it counts as 2 attributes, or if you need Simorgh of Darkness and already have Perfection, you can grab any of your other wing beasts that you might need. We then play, here comes the Monarch engine. 3 copies of the Monarch Stormforth. Once during this turn, if you attribute a monster for a tribute summon, you can tribute one monster your opponent controls. And you can only activate once per turn, and you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck. This is really not too big of a deal because we don't bring out the extra deck at all, which is always nice. Then we play 3 copies of another field spell to replace once we're done with Elbor's and we got our monster on the field, and that is Domain of the True Monarchs. While you have no cards in your extra deck and you are the only player that controls a tribute summon monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. And if a tribute summon monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack during damage calculation only. And then once per turn, you can reduce the level of 1 monster with 2800 attack and 1000 defense by 2 until the end of the turn, even if after they are normal summoned or set. So typically, of course, you would use this to decrease the level of Ryza. Because you bring it down by 2, then if you were to swap out for Elbors or find a way to bring its level down even further, bring its level down to 6 and require 1 less tribute with Elbors, you basically can summon it for free. Then, as a couple of little extra tech cards, I run 2 copies of Floowandereezes and the Unexplored Winds. This makes it to where you can conduct tribute summons that require 2 tributes by sending 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard instead of tributing, but it still counts as a tribute summon. Then, during your main phase, you can reveal up to 2 Wing Beast monsters in your hand, place them on the bottom of the deck, and then draw cards equal to the number of cards placed. So you can use this if you haven't opened up any of your smaller birds and say you completely bricked, but you do open up this is a good way to try and recycle your hand a little. Then for a couple others, we do run 2 copies of Forbidden Chalice. Basically, it increases a monster's attack by 400, but it does negate their effects until the end of the turn. Then for our last 2 for a couple 1-ofs, we will run 1 Monster Reborn to bring back whatever we need, and Change a Heart for additional forms of spot removal. And that is it for all of our spells. For our traps, we only run a couple. So we run 2 copies of Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell since we tend to play a lot of spells in this deck. Basically, you discard a spell card to negate the activation of a spell and destroy it, and your opponent cannot activate cards with that name for the rest of the duel. So if they try to use something like Branded Fusion to go into their Albaz plays, they are completely locked down, and they can't use it again, or if you use against Fusion Destiny, they'll have to figure out ways of going about it. And then finally, we run 2 copies of Escalation of the Monarchs. So this card originally wasn't in the deck, but I was told by a buddy of mine that this is the way to combo with Monarch Storm 4th, because once per turn during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can immediately tribute summon a monster. So let's say you go into battle, so during your opponent's turn, the moment they start, you activate Monarch Storm 4th, then as they go through their plays, or unless they just go straight into battle, you can immediately tribute summon a monster and tribute off what they have. And that is it for this deck profile. Again, this deck revolves mostly around trying to lock your opponent out of their extra deck, and just has a variety of ways of good spot removal that isn't completely egregious. Now the problem with this deck is it can break a little bit, so if you have any suggestions for how to improve this deck, please let me know in the comments. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you'll continue to look forward to more, and expect to see test hands within the next day or 2. But until then, signing out.